Yo, yo, here we go. Okay, what we're going to do here now is what I like to call flat earth science. We're going to do some flat earth science day. Today is flat earth science day, June 9th, 2017, 9:37 a.m. here in Pueblo, Colorado. I was watching my boy Fuck It Words YouTube channel experiments with gravity, disproving gravity. And displaying relative density or dense force and buoyant force properties of electromagnetism. And so what do? You do the same thing. You repeat. Is it repeatable? Is this experiment with the egg in the water repeatable? Yes, it is. I just did it. And I'm going to show you that I did it. This is observable, measurable, repeatable. Okay? So that's what science says. You have to be able to repeat it over and over and get the same result. That's science. That's the law. The law of density, law of buoyancy. These are laws, natural law, not man-made law. Man-made law is nonsense. So what I did here, it's funny, is I accidentally used sugar for the first try, and it didn't work that well. Didn't make the water that dense. Didn't give me much dense force. I immediately started over and used salt, and the dense force applied, and the gravity just disappeared. No more gravity. When you applied salt to the water, it increases the salt's density and salinity levels, and therefore increasing its countering buoyant force of the dense force. It's duality, folks. You have to have a back and forth. Dense force and a buoyant force. These are duality. We live in the world of duality. You have to have, gravity doesn't have duality. It's, I attract a piece of mass, and that's it. And then you're not, and then everybody, but then it's selective. You're allowed to walk, run, birds can fly. Hot air balloons rise to their dense levels. Helium rises to, it's got low density and it rises to its dense level. Because the air above it is less dense than it is, and it has to find its level. If you drop a concrete block, it's denser than the air below it, and it will fall to the ground, which is more dense, and it finally stops. So here we go.
Yo, here we go. So we have a glass of water, a pitcher of water here, as you can see. The egg has fallen to the bottom of this glass of water, this pitcher of water, excuse me. So, it's not gravity though, it's density. This egg right now is more dense than the water below it, but it's not more dense than this countertop, and it can't go any lower. That's the only thing that's stopping that from dropping any further to its density level. I'm gonna throw some, this is called dense force. Now I'm gonna apply buoyant force to counter or cancel the dense force. It's these two forces of duality that cancel each other out. Will that be enough salt to create enough buoyant force? Oh, I'm putting sugar. God damn it. I just accidentally grabbed the wrong fucking thing. Oh, man. I needed to apply salt. Sugar doesn't fucking seem to work worth a shit, huh? I mean, that ain't working. Yo, here we go. Pipe down. Will you pipe down? Thank you. Here we go. This is a pitcher of water. And then there's an egg at the bottom. And it's at the bottom because it's denser than the water below it. And it falls down to the counter here where it's more dense and it stops. It's only density. It has nothing to do with gravity. Does not exist. And I'm going to prove it right now. What we're going to do here is that's dense force. And we're living in the world of duality. So you're going to have your countering buoyant force. So if we apply a little salt, it'll increase the buoyancy of the water. Okay? And then I'm applying buoyant force. Buoyant force to the dense force to counter out the dense force. Uh-oh, gravity just took a shit, didn't it? That thing's about to float. It's not at the bottom anymore. And if I even stir it better, god damn, if I don't break it, if I don't break the motherfucker first. I applied salt. And now it's floating. So I guess salt is anti-gravity, right? I guess salt's anti-gravity, morons? Look, I just created anti-gravity. All I did was I countered the dense force with the buoyant force. Now it's all about density or the medium that it's in density, right? Because now the medium that it's in, the water has salt in it, it's more dense. And when it's more dense, it's applying more of this buoyant force to this egg. It's floating. The egg is floating. It's anti-gravity, right? No. Gravity doesn't exist. I just proved it. If gravity exists, that egg would still be at the bottom. It's dense force and buoyant force. The egg's floating. Now, you want to see something cool? We're going to put more water in this bitch. Iodized salt. I just poured some salt in there and it's floating, okay? Now, and I increased the salinity level of the water and made it more dense, and it's now has more buoyant force for the egg, and the egg floats. It's not sinking to the bottom, but now if you take away that, it'll sink to the bottom here with less salt or equilibrium. Let's see what it does. And there we go. There's our equilibrium. I got this idea from Fuck It Word. Go to his channel to watch the original. It's incredible. I love it. His work with the egg and waters and the rock and the density and the buoyancy. Gravity doesn't exist. We're gonna prove it over and over again. I just did I just did what he showed me. Okay, it's called observable, measurable, and repeatable. Okay, this shit's repeatable. I just repeated his experiment proving that gravity doesn't exist. It's the laws of density and buoyancy, dense force, buoyant force, and these are properties of electromagnetism. Everything's either electric or magnetic, period. It's the electromagnetic world we live in, period. That's it. Everything's either electric or magnetic, and these are the properties of it. And there's the egg. There's the egg. And it's equalized. You know, it's got a little bit more, obviously, it's a little bit more dense force in there. It's lower to the bottom. The water's taking effect. Amazing. Amazing.
Here we go. So let me give credit to Fuck It Words channel real quick. It just blew by me with some, I don't know how they do that. Anyway, no gravity, no globe, demo, relative density on flat Earth. I mean, in my opinion, it's just dense force, buoyant force, depending on its density, depending on which force wins. If it's more dense, then the dense force wins. If it's less dense, the buoyant force wins. and it goes up. I don't see the relativity. Yeah, it's relative to. Anyway, it's here's their ideas. The bigger Earth is, the more dense, the heavier you weigh. The less dense Earth is, the less you weigh. That's all bullshit. Gravity. It's all nonsense. And we've proved that right here.
Our weight is a direct result of the Earth being of a particular density held in a sphere of a particular size and volume. That is to theorize that if the Earth were less dense, we would weigh less, and if it were more dense, we would weigh more. So this means that every atom in these jugs of water, the jugs themselves, is being pulled down to the Earth.
Nonsense.
Because of the Earth's specific density in a specific volume.
It's nonsense.
Its mass.
Gravity is nonsense.
An external force acting on everything.
We're going to show you
the Earth.
Right now. Watch. Show them, fuck it.
So, of course, with the presupposition that there is a downward force called gravity, which is only really measured when dropping things through the air.
Did you hear that?
We then have to counter that force with a buoyant force.
That's right. It's called duality, dude. Gravity doesn't have duality. This has duality. Density and buoyancy. That's duality. You're living in the world's duality. Up, down. There has to be a duality to it.
But we can see here with these two jugs of water that one is more buoyant than the other.
That's right.
We have the same amount of water.
Same amount of water.
But the jug on the right has
more salt.
Buoyant water because it's more dense with salt.
Boom. This is easy, folks.
Just made the water denser.
You better catch on, folks. Now the egg is floating. Okay? Buoyant force has been applied to counter the dense force, and now it's floating. It's not being pulled down. It's not being pulled down. This water's not being pulled down. It's as dense as it is, and it's happy to be where it is until it's something below it or above it is less dense. Then it'll move again. Go.
We just have a difference in the relative density.
Yep.
Because of any.
Because that is now more dense than this. Applying more buoyant force. And watch this. We're going to go ahead and dilute what little salt we have in there now to apply more, or it'll be applying less buoyant force. Or you could say it's applying more dense force. Whatever. It's up to you.
But more to do with the density of the egg's immediate surroundings.
Exactly. And it's all density and buoyancy. Is it more dense than the air below it? If it is, it's going to fall. Is it less dense than the air above it? If it is, it's going to rise. Period. You're watching the egg.
So now we make the water less dense.
And watch this thing
by adding
equalize.
Some of the
non-salted water. It won't float as much now.
We have an egg floating about at an equilibrium within the water. But if you believe that we live on a globe and stick to it because of the force of gravity, then you have to say that we now have an opposing force, a buoyant force acting on the egg. And we have the pressure of the water acting on the egg.
It is. Look at that.
However, if you look at the egg, you see that it is not suffering from being squashed, pushed, or pulled by any forces. It is simply at rest, at its equilibrium with the surroundings. You see, you need not be falling through infinite space to be weightless.
Weight.
There is only ever a downward
less
or upward force
weight
if
less.
the equilibrium is disrupted, like stretching an elastic band that snaps back to its natural state when you let it go. So here we see the egg is in fact weightless.
Yes.
It is
yes.
more or less a part of the water
equalized
at an equilibrium, equal density.
and buoyancy. It's a little
so the
lower.
question is,
it's got more density.
Where did the gravity go?
Add a little more salt and raise it to right here.
Thank you very much.
But actually, it's pretty, whatever, it's close enough. Pretty close. So please like, share, and subscribe. And if you're one of those rich folk out there that got some extra dough, donate. We'll take it. We need it. I would love to be able to have some more resources to do some real experiments. Anyway, thank you very much. I just want to say I really love my subscribers. I appreciate your kind words. And I really do appreciate you. Much love. Thanks.